as a leadership mentor to women of color influencers, I'm the receiver of diverse, raw, and very real testimonies from women who are navigating their lived experiences, personal histories, and internalized trauma in these times. Because they recognize that the cultural landscape demands it. This unapologetic and real versions of ourselves that we're not always upfront with. And while some are softening the rebellion in their bones, there are those who aren't feeling into the softness right now. There are those who are feeling into their outrage. They're having had enoughness and no more holding out for a better day. But I'm not speaking of an unhinged or unruly kind of rage, but a blazing trail one. The kind that helps us all heal out loud. Because these women recognize that grace can also look like fire. And fire is an essential element to help burn and make way for a clearing and a refresh for all living beings. I'm specifically talking about Black, indigenous, women of color who are speaking their truths. They have always spoken their truth out loud, but they're not always being heard. And we all know that being heard and healing are often interconnected. Right now, Black, indigenous women of color are breathing their fire in response to the systemic racism and supremacy that continues to be perpetuated in our society. They're giving voice to the undercurrent of dangerous power that's been in place for generations. They're coming in with their truth. I'm talking about the sisters who are brave enough to speak the message that people aren't yet ready to receive. Those who are being informed by their lineage. The ones who are dismantling the status quo. The ones who are coming in with their ancestral wisdom, their indigenous knowledge, and real-world truths. They're reclaiming their inheritance of loss. They're reclaiming their Eastern, African, and Native practices, rituals, and traditions that have been misused, abused, and whitewashed by the dominant race for far too long. I'm talking about the Black, indigenous women of color who are breathing their fire. But in order to receive the transmission that these women are bringing you, it's going to require the dominant race to activate their sacred listening. And that may require some to unspeak. The women of color leaders I work with have spent their lifetimes informing and educating others on how not to oppress them. And sometimes they activate their anger so that people will listen. They're coming in with their still open wounds. They don't wish to be devoured by their rage. Right now, Black, indigenous women of color are breathing their fire. Be in it. Hold it. Let it burn you. Honor their vulnerability. How? By activating your sacred listening. It's listening through your discomfort. It's listening to the unhealed parts in their stories. It's listening without making it about you. And sometimes it's listening while you squirm in your seat. Sit with the discomfort. Interrogate that. I know there's this pressure to fill in the gaps all the time. Just listen. Sure, some of them have taken years to see themselves, but they've been wearing their skin outside of their bodies for lifetimes. Yes, diversity is important. Building community is needed. Sure, representation matters. But you've got to sit with the discomfort first. And sometimes you have to feel the heat. Because Black, Indigenous women of color recognize that the energy of white dominance is still working as a safe house for many. And that must dissolve and die so we can all breathe. It is time to do better. It is time to go forward. Thank you.